Hey guys, it's Monday. It's the Betting Edge with the Prez. I'm Lawrence Presman, co-founder of WagerTalk. We got Marco D'Angelo on today, and he as well is the co-founder of WagerTalk. We're going to talk NFL football. We're going to go through every game super quick, talk about where we think the lines will end, maybe a look ahead for what we're going to be betting this coming weekend. And I have a butter tart story for you all. Let's bring Marco in. Marco, you like butter tarts?
What is a butter tart?
Seriously?
Seriously,
Okay,
yeah.
let me rephrase it. You like butter?
Yes.
You like tarts?
Yeah.
Then you like butter tarts. Anyway, long story short, I went every year, about 30 of us go on a wine tour up in the Niagara region. We'll go to 10 different wineries. They make you drink wine, which I don't do, so I actually watched, and they pair it with food. The last winery is called 13th Street. It's in St. Catharines, and it has the best butter tarts in the world. They literally win the World Championship of Butter Tarts every single year. And I got a box of 6 for Carmine. My dog ate 2 of them. I texted Carmine saying, can you please get these damn butter tarts out of my house? My dog already ate 2 of them. He doesn't believe me. He thinks I ate them.
Wow, just blame it on me. Tell him Marco was on Monday and he ate 2 of them via Skype.
Oh, Marco, you're the type of guy that could eat them from Vegas to Toronto just by thinking of them. But in all seriousness, my dog literally ate 2 of them. Like, I did not eat one. So now he's gone from 6 butter tarts to 4 butter tarts. And that, my friend, is the butter tart story.
Well, tell Carmine he's still +4 because Marco has 0. So, okay.
Okay. Maybe you can tweet that out. Ring in the New Year's special. Is today the last day?
Today is the last day. You got till midnight tonight. Best deal of the year, guys. You can get all plays. Pick your favorite capper at both WagerTalk or Sports Memo. Get all of their plays through New Year's Day. That's New Year's Day. All the big bowl games. Get everything. Football, basketball, hockey, soccer. Find your favorite capper, just $350. It's a great deal. This is a package worth $699. Do it today, just $350.
Marco, we're going to take a look at all the games coming up for this week, but real quick, are you playing on this Kansas City LA Chargers game?
I haven't decided yet, Prez. I haven't put anything up yet. Still looking at the card. I will have something up today in either basketball or football. I'll be finishing that up when we finish this show.
Brother, let's reminisce of the good times known as this past Sunday. I had Arizona.
Do you still have a TV? That's the bigger question. Did you have Arizona?
I actually was eating clementines, those little oranges.
Uh-huh.
I'd eaten 3 of them, so I had all these peels on my coffee table. I took them and I actually hurled them at my television set. It's been a long time since I've had I've seen a game lose, push, or win like that. Every single thing that could possibly go wrong in the last 35 seconds went wrong. I mean, the craziest part of the whole equation was that after San Fran went up, they got the ball back with 30 seconds. They were an inch away from a first down. Okay, an inch, a foot. Away from a first down, couldn't pull it off, and I had Houston. Houston was a doozy. With that said,
I can't throw stones, buddy. Houston was my top play yesterday. I loved them, and it was an ugly play. And you know what? Losses are losses, Prez. And when they're lopsided, I realize people get upset about it more. But guys, it doesn't matter if you had a game like you lost with Arizona yesterday on the final play of the game, or a game like Houston, you pay the same amount to the bookie, win or lose. It doesn't matter. And, it's one of those games. And I'm going to rant whenever we get to the Houston game, which will be very quickly because they're playing on Thursday night. But that's part of betting, and you got to just, swallow it and move on.
Marco, I'm going to rant real quick right now. First, I also had the Indianapolis under. But
I was there too. That was what there. You just nailed my two losers for the day. I had the under in the Indianapolis game, meaningless touchdown. What was it? $1.05 left in the game.
But Marco, it wasn't even the touchdown. I mean, we see those backdoor meaningless touchdowns all the time. I can live with that. How about the fact that the punt receiver from Jacksonville couldn't get out of the way of a bouncing ball? And on and on and on and on and on. But put all of that aside. We're going to win. We're going to lose. That's the nature of what we do. The referees are killing the sport for me, Marco. Like, look, I can be wrong. I can lose, whatever. I'm now speaking as a fan, not as a gambler. I cannot believe what the referees are doing to this game of football. There was a play in the San Fran, Arizona game down the right side of the field. The San Francisco, what was it? The Arizona defenseman had the San Francisco guy piggybacking on his back with his arms, bear hugging him. Now, I understand the bear hugger was the wide receiver. They called pass interference on the DB on that play. And I'm telling you, I should have taken a picture. The guy, the wide receiver, was literally on his back with his hands wrapped around his torso. And San Fran got the call. We talk about the Houston. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's the one I was going to go to. Yeah. That was.
I thought it changed the game.
Not that it's going to change the game.
Okay, no, Marco, it might change the game. I'm sorry. Football. These games.
It was nothing at the time.
These games get away from people. Okay, Houston is not as bad as they looked yesterday against Baltimore, but I mean that pass interference call in the lack of a call in the end zone.
Here's my problem with it. They changed the rule because of the Saints-Rams game last year, where they got it wrong and they couldn't fix it. They couldn't correct it. It was, you can't challenge plays. Well, they changed that so you could. But for whatever reason, none of these plays are getting overturned. It's like the referees.
There was one in the second grouping of plays. Can't remember, but there was one that was actually.
But if you look at the numbers, it's overwhelming that they haven't overturned any challenges. It's like they're making a point. Well, first of all, you've got the guys looking at the reviews that made the call. They're not going to, they don't want to call themselves out that they made a mistake. But there's no way that you can look at that game. The Houston game, first you could have called holding on the play because the guy literally had his hands grasping shirt. You saw that in the first frame of, there was a lot of still shots up on Twitter yesterday. That could have got called. Yep. But then as the play progressed into the end zone, he tackles the guy before the ball even gets there. What are they possibly looking at? And on a play like that, especially it was a 4th and 2 play for Houston. They gambled and went for it on 4th and 2, and they went for a ballsy call, looking to get the Baltimore defenders by surprise because they thought they would be going for something underneath just to get the first down, and they had the play. The man was beat, and he did only thing that he could do was grab the guy, and they didn't call it. For the NFL to let this continue to go on, you need a third party, independent looking at these reviews. Pure and simple. And when both announcers and the analyst, the referee analyst on the telecast, all agree that it should have been called a pass interference, what are they looking at? I don't know how the NFL can spin this. How many times can you say, and send out an apology letter. We got it wrong. Well, you know what? You're making too much freaking money to get it wrong.
It's ridiculous.
You got to get it right.
And then there was a pass interference call in San Francisco right up at the scrimmage line. I mean, the wide receiver was still standing in the same damn spot. Anyway, man, let's get to it, Marco. Quick couple of promos. We already spoke about ringing the New Year special. I just want to let everybody know we have a flash sale going today. Andrew 599. That's Andrew McGinnis. Head over to sportsmemo.com. Use the promo code Andrew 599. Guys, Andrew's college basketball and NBA package until the All-Star break is $999. We're giving you $400 off of this package, but it's only going to be around today. Andrew 599. He's up double-digit profits in the NBA already, and he's a perfect 4-0 in college basketball. Dude, let's go. Indianapolis, Houston. Look ahead line 6. Now we're down to 3.5. Indianapolis looked really good yesterday. They have lost Marlon Mack for this game, which I think is a big deal. But their O-line is just utterly ridiculous. Brissett's doing well. I'm impressed with him. But here we have a situation from my perspective where there's value on Houston. Everybody saw what Baltimore did to them yesterday. I think this team is hungry. I think this team is angry. And I think they're better than Indianapolis. So I actually like Houston here, and I think we're going to see a 4 by Thursday.
Yeah, well, there are some 4s floating around. Yeah. This is a spot where this is an overreaction to yesterday, obviously, because there was a lot of sharp people on Jacksonville in that Indianapolis game because you had Nick Foles coming back and Brissett returning from injury. Both guys coming back from injury, yet the public wanted to go to the Jacksonville side because of the big name Nick Foles back in the lineup. Well, he hadn't played, but what he played 2 quarters this season. He got hurt in the first game of the season. So that was a little bit of a stretch. Indianapolis looked better than they actually are. The game got out of control. What really surprised me in the game was the fact that Indianapolis was able to run for 264 yards in that game against the Jacksonville defense. You're going to see a different effort this week from Houston. And I'll throw out the old adage. No team is as good as their best game. That applies to Indianapolis. And no team's as bad as their worst game. That applies to Houston. I think there's value on the Houston side. It is a short week, but they're playing at home. It is a division game. I like to allude to that all the time, that it is not as big of a problem for the road team on these short weeks. When it's a division game, you face them twice a year. You know how to prepare for them as opposed to a non-division game. But I still think we're getting value with Houston, and I don't see the line in this spot where it's going to be crazy. I think it won't go any lower than 3.5. It's not going to get to the 3.
I agree. I think it's going the other way.
Yeah, I think once the sharps get into it and do the math on this game, Houston's going to grade out better. And you just got to put a line through yesterday's game with the Houston Texans and move on.
Miami with a loss against Buffalo yesterday, and Josh Allen put together probably his best game of his career. They're going into Cleveland. Cleveland minus 10 in this game with an over and under of 44. Myles Garrett's going to be an absolute massive loss for this Cleveland defense. With that said, I don't know how to bet this game, Marco. I don't know where the line is going to go. I mean, we've already seen money coming in on Miami, pouring in on Miami. 70% of the tickets have been written on Miami. Myles Garrett being thrown out might be a rallying cry for this team. I predicted that they'd go on a run. I know they're going to win this game against Miami, or I don't know if they're going to cover, though. I won't.
Yeah, well, we saw the look ahead line was 9 on this game. Westgate had it at 9, and it comes out at 10.5. Obviously, based off of Cleveland getting a sound win over the Pittsburgh Steelers, which that was a bright spot for me. We did have a 5% Thursday night on Cleveland, and then Miami losing yesterday. Another bright spot for me. That was my 1 and 2 day yesterday. My winner was Buffalo. You look at Miami going in here now. The public, I think, overreacting to the Cleveland win, especially now losing Myles Garrett, because he is an integral part of that defense. But the thing that you said is this team might come together. That first game without the star, stupid, they're going to rally around. And I'll tell you what, you know me, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So one, it pained me to put out Cleveland on Thursday, but that was the side. You can't bet with your head. You can't bet with your heart. You got to bet with your head. And I hate the Browns as a Steelers fan. After the game, the interview on the field, just minutes after everything that melee happened, for Baker Mayfield, I got a lot of respect for Baker after that interview. He called his player out. He didn't try to sugarcoat it, and that is the sign of a leader. And I think Baker Mayfield took a big step forward with that interview on the way he handled the Myles Garrett situation to become the leader of this Cleveland Browns team like he's supposed to be. So do I want to run to the window and grab Miami? No. The reason Miami, I thought yesterday was a great time to go against them is because it was the second meeting. Buffalo took them for granted in the first meeting. They were coming off their bye week. They were focused and ready for them. That might just be what you get from Cleveland this week as well. Not to take anybody serious, but you got to be careful for Cleveland. That was a national spotlight game, and it was your arch rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So definitely an opportunity for a letdown for them off of Pittsburgh. And I will note, look at the schedule, Prez. Cleveland, coming off the Pittsburgh game, has Pittsburgh on deck again. They're going to play them twice in 3 weeks. So that's, scheduling-wise, is a bad spot for Cleveland, but they do get a couple extra days to prepare for this. And Cleveland, if they look at the rest of their schedule, it's pretty soft the second half of the season. They might make a run, and they're buying into it that they're not out of this yet, because just about everybody else is mediocre in the AFC except a couple top teams in the league. They could make it, after New England and Baltimore. It's pretty much a log jam. They might be able to sneak in a wild card. So this is a big game for them. But do you want to lay that many points with Freddie Kitchens?
Marco,
on the sideline.
Marco, talk about the wild card. Buffalo's holding the first spot at 7-3, but man, this team, they've got a couple of weak, soft spots coming up. But they might have one of the hardest schedules in football towards the back end of the season. There's going to be space for a team to either catch them or pass them, depending on how Buffalo plays. But this, to me, hosting Denver is an absolute must-win game for Buffalo. They're -5. There's already a 4.5 on the board. It's 50-50 as far as what the tickets are. 85% of the tickets written already are on the over. We saw a consensus opening line at 35. It's now at 37. Denver's been a hard luck team this year, Marco. They've lost 4 games, give or take, in the last minute. They had the game against the Vikings in the bag, and they even could have won it in the last few seconds. I don't like the spot for Denver at all. Marco, we see this every year. This team has played tough all year. Now they know they're out of the playoffs. I think it's time for Denver to fall apart and have a little nappage until next football season. I like Buffalo -5 here, my brother.
Yeah, I got to agree with you, Prez. You look at Denver, the reaction from the look-ahead line, obviously coming in on Denver after they had, a 20-0 lead yesterday on the Minnesota
By the
Vikings.
way, Marco, I did something yesterday that I almost never do. I always bet 3, 4, 5% of my bankroll on a particular play. Usually about 4% of my bankroll on every play. I went 1-4 yesterday in my 5 plays that I released to my clients. I had a winning day.
You had a winning day. Well,
I bet 15% of my bankroll on Minnesota at the half, -7.5.
Oh, okay. Sweet.
I never
came back and
step out, dude. I never step out.
that definitely a ballsy call there. You would think they would come out and play in the second half, and it was almost deja vu. If you remember, it was the Minnesota Vikings last year that lost as a huge favorite to the Buffalo
Yes.
Bills. Remember that game? It was almost deja vu. They pulled it out. But for this one, the public's overreacting with the look-ahead line. We see it come down on Buffalo because they're not giving Buffalo any credit for their win over Miami, and then obviously overreacting to Denver almost beating Minnesota. But let's be realistic. Minnesota was returning home playing a Denver team that's god-awful. They were coming off a Sunday night game after back-to-back road games. They beat Dallas on Sunday Night Football to, a big win for them. And I throw the thing out there, fat and sassy. Minnesota was fat and sassy yesterday, and they played like it in the first half. Give them credit to come back in the second half and mount the comeback. I want no part of Denver this week. You've got to worry about them second week in a row on the road, how they pick themselves up off the mat. They had 2 weeks to prepare for Minnesota. That was their bye week, so they don't have that advantage this week. I think this is a spot where you do look at Buffalo. Yeah, Buffalo, throw out the Miami game. They're a team that generally doesn't score a lot of points, so you don't like laying points with them, and we see that with the total here, that points are going to be at a premium. But I've got to go ahead and look at the Buffalo side here, and I think as the week progresses, you'll see more people come back into the Buffalo side, and this will move back to where it should have been from the look-ahead line. So if you're going to bet Buffalo, I would suggest doing it now.
I'm with you there, my brother. Okay, scroll change, guys. Alex B. Smith, he's on a 12-7 hockey run. He's 64% in his last 42 all-sport bets. I took $40 off of his week of plays, all plays, every sport. Regularly $119. It's yours for $79. Head over to sportsmemo.com. Use the promo code ALEX79. Marco, we need to be a little bit faster on each game, or, well, I'm going to have to deal with your ugly ass for the next 5 hours. Pittsburgh -7. There are a few 6.5s out there. Going into Cincinnati, the over and under is 39.5. And, well, if I were to bet this game, I would probably take Cincinnati on the money line. I don't have to bet this game, thank God. But I do not buy into this Pittsburgh team. I think their defense is outstanding, but man, they just can't move the ball.
Yeah, this is a spot where you would look for them to bounce back, but just as we said with the Cleveland game, Pittsburgh's got Cleveland right back in the rematch. So this is a spot they already blew out Cincy. Dangerous spot for the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. Buyer beware. I probably will not be involved in this game, but I don't trust the Steelers on the road. Mike Tomlin, this is the type of game that is notoriously underachieved his teams when he's been the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the line is 7 right now. I think that's a solid number. If you want to take Cincinnati, I would say probably do it now, because if I see this line going anywhere, it's going down.
Yeah, I agree. If you're going to play Cincinnati, play them immediately. New York Giants coming off of a bye, playing the most anemic offense I've ever seen in my life, the Chicago Bears. -7 was the consensus opening line. It's been bet down to 6.5, and I agree with that bet down. I understand the New York Giants stink, but I mean, come on. Chicago Bears -7, that actually means, get this, Marco, are you ready? They have to score something to cover that number. They can't miss 2 field goals. They can't, they have to put up at least 7 points to cover that number. It looks like Chase Daniels is going to be playing quarterback this week. He might be a really good Mitch Trubisky, so the second worst quarterback in the history of football. I gotta take the Giants here, dude. And I gotta tell you, if you can still find 6.5s out there, just bet it, because I can see this line going down to 5.
Yeah, the money's definitely going to come to the Giants off the bye week in this one. And the situation in Chicago, they haven't officially put Trubisky up. It's still undecided. Daniels, but I agree with you. It's probably going to be Daniels. The fact that they're saying undisclosed hip injury with Trubisky, that was a polite way of benching him, plain and simple. And if you're Trubisky right now, what is your confidence level if they have to go to him? The Bears are screwed. With that move, benching him as late as they did in the game yesterday, his career with the Bears might be done. They're going to have
with the Bears might be done. Can you just go with his career? Like, I'm telling you flat out, there are at least 6 quarterbacks in the Canadian Football League that I would start over Mitch Trubisky.
Mitch Trubisky right now, to me, as far as where they drafted him and where he is now, is probably, when you talk about level of bust for a draft pick, we're talking Ryan Leaf. Yep, absolutely. So for this one, I'm on the fence with it right now, but there's only one way the line's going to go, and that's down.
Yeah, and I think the Oakland line is going to go down too, Marco. They're -3 on the road against the New York Jets, and I think this is a really, really bad spot for Oakland. I get that they're 6-4. And look, hey, they got Kansas City on deck, so I understand this game is an important game for Oakland. I understand they're playing good football. I understand their defense has improved remarkably since last year. They barely got a win yesterday against Cincinnati, and I think the New York Jets are feeling good about themselves. I think this is a really bad spot for Oakland. I like the New York Jets right now, and I actually think if you're going to bet Oakland, you can wait. I think you can wait. If you're going to bet the Jets and you can find a 3, you got to bet that right this damn second.
Yeah, the situation with the Kansas City on the horizon, that's the big problem for Oakland. The factor that Gruden has in his favor here is Kansas City on the horizon. That game means nothing to them if they lose this game. And he's got to drill that home to them. These are the type of games you got to win, because not only are they got the remote shot at the division still at 6-4, they're right in the thick of things right now for a wild card. And they had their flat game last week, which was understandable. They just played a Thursday night game, national TV audience against a division rival, the only other team that really was in the mix with them to have a shot in that division, and they put the Chargers away. It was a big win. So for them to be flat against a winless team is not surprising. What's going to be surprising and will be the telltale is if they have another flat game this week. This is the measuring stick to how far the Raiders have gone. And it's John Gruden's job to have this team ready to play. Are the Jets improved? Yes, they're improved. Sam Darnold's gained confidence the last couple of weeks, but granted, it was against crappy teams. Okay, so look, let's not get sold on the Jets that they're back. This is a dangerous spot for the Raiders, but I don't know that I trust the Jets as well. I'm impressed with what John Gruden has done. He's a year ahead of schedule, in my opinion, for this team, and this is a big game for them if they want to make next week's game even bigger.
95% of the bets in this Carolina-New Orleans game is on the under. And I think that's a reasonable thing, given that Carolina could not move the ball at all against Atlanta, but hey, nor could New Orleans 2 weeks ago. 9.5 for the Saints. This is Carolina's season, brother, and I'm getting 9.5. Yet I can't take it. I think this game is going to keep moving, Marco. I think if you're going to bet New Orleans, you need to bet it now. I'm going to be staying far away from this football game.
Well, the look-ahead line was 7 on this game, and it's up to 9. It's up to 9.5. And honestly, the move from 7 to 9, automatic, and that is because of the teaser blocker. You had to get this game because it's 7. You can't bring it out at 7 because the books would have had a onslaught of guys coming in with 6-point teasers, taking it down to 1. By moving it to 9, you can't use the 6-point teaser. You got to go to 7 to get it below 3, and that you have to lay extra juice for. So that's strictly the move there. Does it get to 10? I don't know that it gets to 10 game, simply because Carolina, as bad as the offense is, the defense is still hung in most of the games. Other than that San Francisco fiasco where they gave up 51 points, they hold teams under 30 points. They don't have those shootouts with Carolina, mainly because Carolina runs the football so much and has so many of those high percentage passes out of the backfield to Christian McCaffrey that are just extended running plays that the clock's always moving. So the games are shorter, and that's why you don't get as many offensive plays for the opposing team, and it's hard to get to 30 in Carolina games. With that said, I don't have an initial opinion on this one. The Saints are rolling, no question about that. They got a revenge game up in 4 days. Note that you always got to look ahead to see who the Thursday night game is, because a lot of times teams are going to go half speed on the Sunday game, knowing they got to come back in 4 days. And the Saints have Atlanta in revenge on Thursday night up next. So be careful laying the big number here. You could get a go through the motions type of game with the Saints.
Speaking of Atlanta, they're -4 yesterday, last night. I actually bet them, so there's a bet I've made, guys. Atlanta -4. There's now a 5 on the board and a bunch of 4.5s. We have a total that's come down from 54.5 to 52. I don't know what to make of this Atlanta team. I swore off of them, and now I just put a bet on them.
Well, you know what? That means I should run to the window and bet Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay and Jameis Winston has been my kryptonite. I don't know that I can find myself there, but you look at the look-ahead line and look at where the line's at now and where it will probably end up. No surprise there. The look-ahead line was 3. Atlanta came back and put a second good game together after their bye week. They beat the Saints, and everybody said, okay, well, that was their Super Bowl. They were playing the Saints. They got up for that. The real question would be is how they come back the next week. And to be honest with you, I didn't use the game yesterday, but if I would have been on Carolina, because I wouldn't have expected Atlanta to show up, and they showed up for a second week in a row. Will they do it for a third week in a row? Maybe. The Tampa Bay team, you don't know where they're going to go. It all comes down to Jameis Winston. And once again, 4 turnovers yesterday for the Tampa Bay Bucks, and that's why they lost the game.
5.
On my chart
I
shows
think it was
4.
4 interceptions and a fumble by one of the wide receivers.
But a 34-17 game, and one of them was a pick 6, so turned it around. That's a 14-point swing. They could have been in this game. It was a spot where it was 27-17, and Tampa had the ball.
Marco, add Tampa to my list of L's from yesterday. Yeah.
And so here's the thing. But just as I said about New Orleans in the last game, Prez, Atlanta's got a Thursday game coming up. Be leery of this one against Tampa. I swore earlier in the year I would not play Atlanta anymore. And after Tampa yesterday, I said, I'm not playing Tampa anymore. But here it is. These points look attractive with Tampa Bay. If they don't turn the football over, they're in this game. I think if I look at anything, maybe you look to the over.
Oh, I love the over. I'm with you 100%.
You know, this is one where how can anybody stop the other team?
Yeah, yet we've seen Atlanta put together a historic 2-game defensive run. Detroit going into Washington. Haskins wasn't horrific. He showed that he might be able to play in this league. He's certainly about 180,000 times better than Mitchell Trubisky. Detroit -3.5. The line came out at 2, Marco. There's a lot of money. 94%. Literally 94% of all tickets written so far, and I grant you that's somewhat irrelevant given that there's only a few tickets written, but 94% of the tickets written so far have been on Detroit. 95% have been on the under, and I get that because people are thinking Washington can't score. But let me tell you, man, the over is the play in this game, Marco. I mean, here you have a situation. We see this every week. Two bad teams get together. Neither of them can ever score when they play each other. It's 44-40 game. Washington's defense is absolutely crap, and Detroit's defense is even worse. I like the over in this game, but I doubt I'll be getting to the window.
Yeah, this is a low total, Prez, 42. Washington with Haskins, don't get carried away. His numbers, they weren't that great. He had 171 net passing yards yesterday. The situation being, though, some of that came in the second half when the game was really out of control for Washington. The Jets had the big lead on them, and Jets went into prevent. My concern was that Washington could not run the football at all yesterday. 20 carries for 54 yards. Now, if you don't give Haskins some balance,
anybody,
I don't care how bad the Detroit defense is, they're going to be able to pin their ears and come after him in third and longs. They're going to be in bad down and distance situations all day long if they can't find a running game. And that's the concern here. I'm not sold on Washington. Do I want to lay points on the road with Jeff Driscoll, quarterback for Detroit? Not really. So it's a game this is a crap game that I might not be involved in at all on Sunday. But the line, seeing it at 3.5 makes sense because Detroit did not embarrass themselves against Detroit, or against Dallas, I should say, on Sunday. They matched scores most of the way. But I'm just not sold on Washington. This is a team from the top of the organization, with the owner to the coaches to everything. They're just not a good organization. They're not a well-run team. And I will give Detroit and Patricia some credit. I was hard on him at the beginning. I wasn't thrilled with him as a coach, but he is making strides. He's getting the most out of an average team this year.
Yeah, I'm a fan of his. Tennessee -3, the over and under 41.5. It was 42 last night. Marco, I like Tennessee here. I think Jacksonville's crap. I like, you talk about their defense. Indianapolis put up close to 300 yards on the ground yesterday, 240, 250, whatever the hell the number was. And if Marlon Mack and Williams, that nobody's ever even heard of, could put up that type of number, Henry's going to have a huge day. I like the under in this game, and I like Tennessee, and I'll tell you flat out, I think it's going to move against me in both areas. We have a 41.5. I think it's going to go down. We have a 3. I think it's going to go up. What do you like?
Well, you look at this when the look-ahead line was 2.5. They bumped it up to 3, just a half point off of Jacksonville's poor performance. Obviously, Tennessee off of the bye week, so they couldn't do any damage last week. I look at this one, and my question is, what the hell was the game plan of Jacksonville's yesterday? They only ran the football 9 times.
I don't understand it.
9 times. How do you only run the football 9 times? Now, granted, I understand they fell behind in the game, but you got to have some kind of balance. You got your quarterback. You're supposed to be your franchise quarterback that you went out and signed in the offseason. First game back, and you got him chucking the football 47 times? That's a mistake. I think you're going to see, and this is one of those where I like to say, don't overreact to one game. He was rusty. He needed a game under his belt. He got a game under his belt. I think you'll see a better performance out of Jacksonville. The question is, has the defense given up on this team? And that's something we saw last year with Blake Bortles, where the defense quit on the offense. We saw Jalen Ramsey constant complaining. Finally, they traded him this year, and the defense isn't the same. That's a problem and a concern moving forward, which bodes well for the over. But I just think if there's going to be a game that Jacksonville's going to show up one time, this is the game that has to be.
I just don't
if
think
they
it
lose
matters.
this. For as far as the season goes, the
I don't
season's
think it
lost
matters
for
for
them.
this game. Marco, I don't want to hear you talk about Nick Foles anymore or anybody else. If everybody could go back and just check out his record. Look, I understand when he was in Philadelphia, he was winning games. Then he got, the Rams got all excited. Ooh, Nick Foles, Nick Foles. They brought him down to L.A., couldn't freaking complete a pass. Nick Foles might be the single most overrated quarterback since Matt Castle came out of New England. This guy has never done a damn thing. Now, I understand he was...
Other than win a Super Bowl.
I understand. So did Trent Dilfer. So did Doug
did.
Williams.
That's right.
So did Jeff Hostetler. Okay? I mean, that is not the be-end-all of anything, to be honest with you. Nick Foles, he's not a good quarterback. I wouldn't even waste my time. I would just dump him and put the mustache back in. That's me. Let's get to the next game, dude. And I think this game, I just want to stop for a second, breathe, and talk about the New England-Dallas game. Look, everybody, I have sworn off betting New England. I haven't bet against New England. I haven't bet against New England in maybe 5 years. I bet against New England yesterday, Marco, for the first time in memory. And I am okay with that loss. They got one touchdown, and I lost. And that touchdown was on a trick play, and I lost. Their defense looked phenomenal, and I want to give them their due. But I told everybody Tom Brady is done. Do you know that Tom Brady threw 14 incompletions in the first half? He overthrew, underthrew, sideways threw. He probably took the ball and threw it up his ass. He was so off. And I think that's what he's going to be like this week. I'm getting 6 points in a Dallas game. I want to tell you, I bet this play last night, Marco. I bet it at around 11 p.m. I got Dallas +7 at minus. Oh.
Bless you.
Well, no. That's me thinking about Tom Brady's arm. Although he's still a hell of a lot better than Mitch Trubisky. I got it at +7, -120. It's already down to 6. I think it's going to keep going. I think if you're going to bet Dallas, you need to bet them now. The total is 46. I think that number is going to drop. Marco, I think that number is going to drop to around 44, 44 and a half. I like the under in this game, and I think you have to bet it immediately. And I like Dallas, and I think you have to bet them immediately.
Yeah, I'm not going to step in front of Belichick and Brady at home. There's stats out there with them galore, especially whenever it's a smaller number like this under the touchdown with New England. They find ways to beat you, and I'm sorry. Here's the one outlier. You got Jason Garrett on one side of the field, and you got Bill Belichick on the other side of the field. You got Tom Brady even at the end of his career on one side of the field, and you got Dak Prescott on the other side of the field. Now, if they get the running game going against New England, where everything opens up for Dallas, they've got a shot in this game. But if Dak Prescott's got to do it on his own, I just still don't trust the Dallas Cowboys. They're playing a second week in a row on the road. And my concern is you had to go toe-to-toe with Jeff Driscoll in the Detroit Lions. Okay? No Matthew Stafford. 35-27 concerns me that the Dallas Cowboys couldn't stop the Lions yesterday. That's a big concern here. Belichick, he finds a way to beat you. And as bad as the offense looked for New England yesterday, what you're not saying is they shut down this Philadelphia Eagle offense.
Yeah,
the Eagles did absolutely nothing.
I mean, listen, with that said, dude, the Eagles offense is seriously injured. But yeah, Carson Wentz, I mean, he put up what we call commonly referred to as a Mitch Trubisky. He literally overthrew his wide receivers all game long. I'm not going to be releasing this play to my clients. I did bet Dallas at +7 because I knew for sure it would drop. I'm hoping it goes down.
You got a good number. You got a good number.
I'm hoping
no question
it goes down
about
to
that.
5, and I'll just take the middle. Green Bay +3 going into San Fran. The total is 46. This San Fran team really could have lost yesterday against Arizona. They got out of it alive, and now they're hosting Green Bay. And, Green Bay could win the entire NFC. They need to win this football game. The over is going up. 90% of the people already, or 90% of the tickets are on the over, and that's what I like. And I also like Green Bay here, Marco, but I don't think this line is going to move off of 3. I think it's just going to sit there the whole week.
The number of 3 probably is going to sit there, because what's going to end up happening is if it tips up to 3.5, everybody's going to run and take Green Bay at the 3.5. And when it's at 3, I think that you'll still get Green Bay money, but there's going to be, and I'm going to disagree with you, I think the Sharps will come in on the San Francisco side. The Sharps were taking Kansas City against Green Bay on the road on that Sunday night game whenever Mahomes was out. Then Green Bay, the next week at the Chargers laid an egg. I'm not sold on this Green Bay team. They've got the wins and they got Aaron Rodgers. That's what they got, okay? You can move the football on this Packer defense, and everybody's going to have the knee-jerk reaction to you like you did with San Francisco and say, hey, the 49ers should have lost on Sunday to Arizona. You know what? You're right. They probably should have. But San Francisco didn't. They won the game. They put up a ton of yards in the game. A couple picks by Jimmy Garoppolo hurt them, and those picks came on the Arizona side of the field when they were driving. So San Francisco left points off the board. San Francisco was in a horrible spot in that game. They were coming off the Monday night game against Seattle, a big game for Seattle. It was their measuring stick against the Niners, and the Niners lose in overtime. So it's tough to pick yourself up off the mat and do it on a short week. Now you're going to get full focus from the 49ers this week. They're not playing a garbage team. They're playing a team they got to take seriously. And I think the difference in this game is the 49er defense. I just want to see that defense putting pressure on Aaron Rodgers. If you can get to Aaron Rodgers, you can rattle him. As good of a quarterback as he is not the same under pressure. And I think the 49ers will be able to put pressure on him, and it'll be an electric type game there. This is next to the Seattle game. This is the biggest game of the year for the 49ers. And I think you see the 49ers that we saw earlier in the season. And watch the injury report. They played on a short week this week with a lot of injuries. Let's see if they get some guys back healthy next week that'll help them even more.
He's Marco D'Angelo. I'm the Prez. You're watching The Betting Edge with the Prez. You can find it at WagerTalk TV Monday to Friday. Marco is on the show on Friday, everybody, with Jeff from Oskheim Sports. There's 2 games to talk about, Seattle and Philadelphia, Baltimore and the Rams. Marco, let's leave those 2 games till Friday. The show is run on, and I've got some meetings I have to go to, so it is with great love and affection that I tell you to bugger off.
Hey, good luck to everybody if you're in action tonight, and let's have a big week, everybody.
Okay, my friend, you're the best. Speak to you later.
All right, Prez.